At $200, a Super Nintendo setup costs twice as much as the old system. For the money, the company promises better pictures, sound, and adventure. Now you're playing with power, superpower. You're the king, I tell you! The king!
Only for Super NES.
Only on Super NES.
You're listening to the SNES Podcast with your host, Soulblazer.
Hello, everybody. This is Super NES Podcast. I am Greg, joined always by Joe.
Hello.
We're doing episode number 203 this time around, and we finally take a look at one of the most popular and legacy games on the system. Certainly one of the heavy hitters. We're trying to spread out some of the heavy hitters that we have left because, honestly, we don't have a lot of the huge multi-million-dollar game sales left on the podcast. There are still some coming up, but we're trying to spread these guys out so that they're special episodes. But and we've been putting this one off for a while for reasons which we'll get into the podcast. But this game definitely deserves to be talked about. So we decided, pretty much mutually, I think Joe and I, we both had as far as finally covering this one now, we're going to be covering Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island on the system, which definitely is one of the most popular games on the system, and did as we're getting to spawn a huge legacy after it. So I played this game back in the day. I never beat it, again for reasons which we'll get into here in the podcast, but I definitely did play it, and then I finally, when we were getting ready for the podcast, went through and played it and beat it the first time, like on my Super NES Mini, because the game's included on that. So, Joe, I know that you didn't have Super NES growing up, but you did have access to one. What was your history of this game before the podcast?
No history. So that's what made this one so special, and one reason why I was like, yes, we should totally cover this game. So this is one of those games I had avoided for years because everyone was like, oh, the crying baby Mario, it's so annoying, blah, blah, blah. This could be such a great game, but the crying baby Mario, that's all I kept hearing. Crying baby Mario, the crying baby Mario. So I put this off for the longest time. Also, although it is Super Mario World 2, it's a Yoshi game. And therefore, like, to me, Yoshi always, like, kind of came off as, like, that's, like, kind of like Elmo. It's the Elmo Sesame Street. We had Sesame Street. We grew up with Sesame Street. Sesame Street was cool. Elmo was introduced, and it was clearly for the younger kids. That's how I felt about Yoshi. Yoshi was for the younger kids. So I had some, obviously wrong preconceptions of what this game was and avoided it because of that. I've seen videos, since, and because of seeing different videos and everything else, yes, the Mario crying was still a big focal point, but the more I watched videos, I realized that, like, this game wasn't as bad as I had it preconceived in my mind. And then that's when, you had brought it up that we should cover it, and I was like, yeah, absolutely, I want to give it a fair shake. I want to go in, like, no preconceptions. It's going in just strictly as, we're going to play this game, we're going to try to beat it for the podcast, and that's it. And then, kind of do an analysis after the fact.
So were you able to finish it?
I did not.
Okay, all right.
To be fair, I came close, but I did not finish it.
Yeah. But okay, fair enough. I mean, fair enough. I think I'm sure you're not the person out there who had the same experience, preconceptions about the game.
Yeah.
So, especially for somebody who didn't have Super NES growing up like I did as well too. So I'm okay with this game being Super Mario World 2 because even though there are differences, there are also like a lot of similarities to the first game. So, it was made up. So the game was created by many same people and the same team at Nintendo. The EAD team that made Super Mario World. It spent a long time in development, like about 4 years. Before the game finally came out pretty late in the Super NES lifespan. It came out in Japan in August of 1995. North America and Europe got the game just 2 months later like in October, and it finally released in Oceania, which is Australia, New Zealand, and the like, in December. So late '95 is late Super NES, not the last games for the system. I mean, if I remember correctly, Super Mario RPG would come out the following year. So while it was late, it was not the last game. However, one benefit about the game spending so long in development, and also because it came out so late in the system's lifespan, was the processing power behind this. This game was the only game to use a certain version like the FFX2 chip that was used. That was used for other. The Super FX2 is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
That was used for other things. Super FX chip was usually used to give Super NES games 3D scaling and effects. Obviously, this being 2D, there's no 3D in this, but the chip is used to give the extra processing power the game requires, which obviously, if you play the game, you understand why, because this really pushes the system hard as far as its as far as the gameplay and everything. So. It's not hard to see why this game spent 4 years of development. The graphics in the game, they're all hand drawn, which would take a very long time to do. The music is also there's a lot of music in this game, so that also takes a lot of time to develop. So it feels like it took a very long time to as far as programming hurdles to really push the system hard. And this game. It's not the most graphically sharpest game in the system. There are other games for that, but as far as like sheer graphical prowess with the hand-drawn graphics and everything, this game certainly is up there, in a very limited list with like 1 or 2 other games that you probably could say that about. Definitely this. The difference between this game and Super Mario World, which was launched in 1990, is just like night and day as far as how the games look and how they play, how they program and everything. So, the game was ported to various systems. Put on in later years, which we'll get into later on the podcast. The plot of this game is interesting. It's still set in the Mario world, but it's set like in the distant past when Mario, Luigi, and Bowser were all babies. So. Even that young age, Bowser was already a king, and he's already a tyrant. He was told by his magician advisor, Kamek, who, if I remember correctly, was an enemy in Super Mario World, but this is really the first time they was like fleshed out. So
yes,
he has been used in other games since then too as well. But he was told by Kamek that Mario and Luigi would grow up to foil his plans. So Bowser's like, okay, well they're babies, let's just grab them. So. He sends them. He sends them to intercept the stork, delivering the babies. Luigi gets captured, but Mario manages to fall somehow, like in the back of a Yoshi. So, and the Yoshi and his friends then decide to try to return Mario to his parents, having to go through a whole bunch of obstacle and enemy-ridden stages along the way to do so. So, cute story, typical Mario story. I mean, it works like what it is. So. But that premise right there introduces the whole unique aspects and the unique ideas of the gameplay this game has, as Joe mentioned, for good and for bad.
Yeah.
So, since you've not played this game before, Joe, I'm curious to hear your thoughts about the gameplay.
I mean, I love the gameplay. Let me tell you. So this is where we first are introduced to the flutter jump for Yoshi. We get his ground pound for the first time. Yep. We get the throwing egg mechanic, which for me was great to see all these things because I really started playing the Yoshi games in the Crafted Worlds release, which was, I think Crafted World was Wii U, and then I played the one for the Switch. I can't remember. Yes. But anyways, so I mean, Yoshi definitely has taken on his own little moniker, and he has his own little series and the way they do it. And you definitely see the origins of that here. Being able to eat enemies and turn them into eggs to be thrown is really cool. It's like pretty much there's no way to run out of ammunition in this game. There practically is no timer. The only timer that you ever come across is either A, when you get a power up that we'll talk about later, where you can morph into different weird things. Probably the weirdest thing about this game. And then, of course, when you get hit and Baby Mario is ejected off of you, you have a time limit to be able to, get him back. Other than that, there is no time limit to this game. So you are free to explore up, down, left, right, underneath things, and everything else to be able to find all the wonderful secret goodies that they have stashed in there. And we got everything from stars to flowers to red coins. So tons of collectibles in this game.
Yep, definitely. So those are some of the good points you mentioned. We might as well get into the re-releases since you already talked about that. Yoshi's Island was re-released later on the GBA, and they added an extra stage for they added an extra stages. Yeah. The version of the game along some like small tweaks. That game got a very limited release, like the 3DS, like a very limited release. That's like, it was like a one-time launch bonus port.
Okay.
So if you see that game on 3DS, it's worth a lot of money. So if you, for sure. So that version, however, did get ported to more worldwide release on the Wii U Virtual Console. So the game's also available on the Super NES Mini, as I mentioned before, and also on the Switch Online. But for some reason, perhaps because of the fact that the GBA port did kind of cramp the plain screen a little bit, Nintendo made the decision for the later re-releases to use the original version of the game. So the one on there is not the one that has the extra stuff added onto it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, it's a trade-off because, like I said before, extra stages, but you also had a game ported to the handheld, so cramped game screen, blah blah blah, that kind of stuff too. So
yeah, and I mean, to be fair, this game already has extra stages to begin with. So yeah. I mean, yes, it's nice to have extra stages. Of course, especially considering being it re-released for the GBA would have been the first time it would have been re-released.
Yes,
but also at the same time, this game's already, God, I challenge you to 100% this game. Because, I mean, I put some effort into this, which is why I didn't beat it, to try to collect anything and everything that was available in this game. And it is not as easy as you think.
Yeah. I'm sure I could 100% this game given time because, like I said, my first time playing Super Mario World, I just worked upon finishing the game.
Right.
I didn't go back and 100% the game until later on. So I'm sure given time I could do it with this game too as well. But yeah, Yoshi, you also brought up some great points, Joe. Yoshi definitely was a thing in Super Mario World, and he was popular for the game, which Nintendo decided to build a game around him pretty much for this one. However, it really was because of this game that the Yoshi popularity took off to whole new levels. But I mean, and what Yoshi could do in Super Mario World is pretty limited. Because in that game, Yoshi can grab enemies with his long tongue, which is still present here, to eat them. And depending upon the three different kinds of shells, you get the shells that the Yoshi can absorb to gain their powers, so they have that Koopa for a limited time. That's pretty much about it. Yeah. I mean, beyond that, Yoshi's just pretty much like a horse that you can just go around the game. In this game, with the tongue ability still there, plus all the other new abilities, he really takes on a whole new life as a really strong, playable character not just a mascot. Yeah. And while Yoshi was already popular, as I just said, it was this game that really took him to whole new levels of popularity, and this is what spawned the franchise of Yoshi, which gave us games like Yoshi, Yoshi's Cookie, and a bunch of other Yoshi games I'm sure I'm forgetting about right now. So. And Yoshi's still very much a thing. And Yoshi's still very much a thing to this day.
Right.
So, so actually, the roles are reversed in this game. In Super Mario World, Mario's the main character, and Yoshi's the sidekick. In this game, Yoshi's the main character, and Mario's the sidekick. You're right. So that's a very interesting way to. Yes, that's a very interesting way to take on things for sure. So. Why don't we address the elephant in the room here, Joe? Just get it out of the way with since we already talked about before. The crying baby. So, I understand why Nintendo did this because, after all, they wanted they want to give the game a kind of danger feel to it, and like to be fair, Yoshi makes a lot of sounds in this game too, which I do find some of his sounds. I do find other sounds in this game annoying too, not just like the crying baby, the crying Mario.
Yeah.
Like some of Yoshi's sounds I find annoying. Some of the boss enemy sounds I find annoying. So it's not just like the false starts with Mario. So for better or worse, Nintendo made a choice when making this game to make it a very vocal game.
Yeah.
I probably can't think. This actually may be one of the most sound-filled games I could think of on the system for sure, because of all the sounds that are present in this game, besides the music. But anyway, so it made sense. Mario's a baby. That's the whole gimmick. He gets knocked off Yoshi. He cries. That makes sense. I'm perfectly okay with that, like as a concept. And I'm not quite sure exactly how Nintendo could have tweaked this to make it less aggravating, but yes, because humans are instinctively hardwired to find the sound of crying baby to be distressful.
Right.
So, but now I know that baby does not borrow their. Now I know that baby is very hit or miss with people. Some people I know who love this game had no problem at all with the crying baby. They don't mind it at all. Other people hate it. Other people hate it as much as I do. Including there were a bunch of reviews back in the day that talked about this issue as well too.
Yeah.
So believe me, this is a thing like this is a thing 28 years ago when this game came out. This is not a new argument that we're having here. So, like I said, like I said, I'm not sure what they could have done. Have done to change it. I think the whole you have 10 seconds or whatever to get Mario back before you lose your life is a fun gimmick. I like that idea, and you can regain time or add on time on that meter by finding power-ups and items and whatnot. So that gives you a whole gimmick, a whole idea, which combined which helps make this game unique, which is one of several unique ideas this game has. Not all the ideas work fully. I'm sure we'll get into that again later on, but I think the timer idea works great. I'm perfectly happy and okay with that, because while Yoshi can instant die, it is nice to have a game where you're not immediately killed the moment you hit something. So you have the time to quickly try to get Mario back, deal with whatever kind of crisis they're doing at the moment, whatever. That's that's very fun gameplay. So that said, man, I've always played this game in the past. I've always played this game with the music turned off because of that reason. So which is a shame, because the game has a great soundtrack, which we're going to hear later on. So. However, we recently were told by I want to say it was probably our boss over at the Geekade who actually told us about this. I'm drawing a blank on his name right now.
Chris?
I'm sorry, Chris. Yes, thank you. There is actually a hack. Somebody came out with a patch that removes that crying sound removes that crying baby from the game. I did test it in emulation. It works. However, I wanted to get the full authentic experience of this game, just like you did, Joe. So that's why I played it on the Mini with that with the crying baby and all, and forced myself to go through it this time.
Yeah.
So. It gets a little. To me, at least, it gets a little bit less annoying as you go through the game and get used to it, but it's still not very pleasant. It's like I said before, it's like I think maybe I'm okay with I'm okay with the idea of the sound effect in general. I just kind of wish Nintendo had found a different way of doing it. So that said, as you talked about already, the crying baby bothers some people more than others. So I would say that if you're out there like Joe, who's avoided playing this game because of that reason, I would just say, don't. Find, either download that patch to remove it, or play the game off, or do something or something to mitigate it. But that alone should not keep you away from this game, because while it's why I do think that's annoying, there's so much more this game has to offer besides that. So, and it's not fair. And there are many other great games I love that have one bad mechanic in it, but everything else in the game makes up for it to make it still a very, very good game. And I think this game's the same way. So,
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, I played the game originally as it was intended for pretty much the first world. And yes, that baby Mario crying can be a bit annoying, especially when it triggers a cat and your cat starts meowing along with it. That did happen while I was playing. So
I didn't have that issue, at least, thank God.
so that didn't help the experience, Eddie. That being said, I got the patched ROM, that eliminated the crying Mario, and I understand why the effect was put in there after playing the modded version of the game, because not having baby Mario crying and triggering that thing in me saying that I gotta go pick him up, it was very easy to, after getting hit, to continue what I was doing and forget that baby Mario was not with me, and then I'd end up losing him. So the mechanic's there for a reason, and removing it, although yes, it does help as far as, the pleasure of the game in that moment. But overall, it takes away from the game, is what I learned. And, this is one of those games that you have to appreciate every little aspect of it, including crying baby Mario.
Right. Yeah, for sure. So,
yes. While we're still kind of talking about sound, I just want to, this is such a subtle thing that I noticed, and it blew my mind when it all came down to it. Did you know that every time you beat a world, a new instrument for the map music opens up?
No, I did not. I actually didn't realize that.
Yes. So you have the map music, and it's that little do sort of floppy thing.
Sure.
After you beat World 1, a little percussion drum comes in. And then after you beat World 3, there's another, instrument that ends up coming into that, until finally when you get to World 6, the world map music is full and just grandiose. And it was amazing. It's just one of those things I didn't pick up on it initially.
Yeah.
But then it just clicked, and I was like, oh wow, that's so cool.
Yeah. I actually didn't realize that, but that. So now that you mentioned it, I'm thinking about the music. You're right. There are other games out there that do a similar gimmick. But I love a game that does that. For example, Phantasy Star 3 for the Genesis. As you add it, as you increase your party members, and your party size goes up from 1, 2 to 3 to 3 to 5. Right. To keep adding on a new instrument on the world theme. Yeah. So that so it goes from one instrument with one person to 5 instruments. 5 people, and that's a very cool gimmick. So, the fact that Yoshi's Out has that, was pretty cool. Yeah. So, for sure. So, this is as Joe mentioned, this is a very big game. 6 worlds. Totally 48 levels. So let's talk about the similarities and differences between this game and Mario World. Because I said before, I think this game has enough DNA here for it to really be considered a proper sequel to Mario World. Because the gameplay in many cases is still the same. Still going through stages, trying to avoid you're trying to avoid attack enemies, collect coins, power-ups, whatever have you. There are still bosses to fight. Mm-hmm. Toward the end for every stage. The gameplay is still very fast and frantic. Even more so than Super Mario World, because Yoshi's just a faster character than Mario is. Period. So, you still a lot of the same tried and true, recognizable classic bad guy enemies in this game. So, there are still some. There are a lot of new power-ups. We'll talk about those in a moment. But some of the classic power-ups are here too. That are here too as well, such as Star, which is the Star power-up, which gives you the classic invisibility. Mm. So there's still a mini game which you can play to try to gain extra lives. And there's still hidden 2-player mini games that you can play in this game. Playing playing Mario Brothers like the original game. So so the gameplay still feels very similar to me. Enough so the fact that not the fact that I'm okay with you're okay with like calling this a sequel, but obviously there are also like some big differences. Yoshi plays and handles very differently than Mario does, so it does take a bit to get used to that for sure. So, and Yoshi has so many abilities in this game, which already I talked about also. The unique power-ups that Yoshi also has in this game, like, pretty fun. For example, one of my favorites is like the watermelon.
Yes.
That's Yoshi like shoots seeds from his mouth like a machine gun.
Yep.
So, and if the fire enemies also turn his gear. The fire enemies also can turn like to a living walking a flamethrower,
yep.
which is also like a lot of fun. Transforming Yoshi into vehicles is a lot of fun. I remember seeing cars, drills, helicopters, submarines. I'm not sure if there's anything else. But...
Yeah, that's what I have marked down was helicopters, submarine, cars. I totally forgot about the drill, actually. So
yeah, being able to fire eggs off obstacles and whatnot.
Yes.
There's also like a lot of fun. Up to six eggs can be stored that way. So you actually can you actually set it up like a trail of eggs behind Yoshi following you as you go through the stage.
Mm-hmm.
Stage was like very cute. So yeah, this whole game just oozes cuteness.
Yes.
And even though it is cute, it is still a game that adults can enjoy and play for sure. But while I think this game overall is a bit easier than Super Mario World, I do think that there definitely are some very challenging stages and some challenging boss fights in this game for sure. So,
yeah.
What do you Flex? What do you think about the differences like in the overall like difficulty level, Joe?
So, like my notes were very simple with this, and it was literally I put prequel sequel ? Because it is a prequel, but yet, like you said, with the game design, with the different ways that you go through the levels, it very much feels like a Super Mario Land 2, and it's definitely earned that title for sure. Mm-hmm. Also, like, it's Mario simplistic, and like, although it is Mario simplistic, there is some challenge there, just like in Super Mario World. Like, it's still Mario. There's still that, you jump on people's heads, collect coins, get extra lives, like that simplicity that everybody knows, but there's also that challenge. And just like you had Star Road in, Mario World, here in Yoshi's Island, you got the secret levels that you can unlock. And then even in the levels themselves, there are some things that you have to kind of really go out of your way. Like those daisies are not easy to grab. Some of them are hidden. Some of them you have to shoot the eggs at the clouds. Some of them you're just shooting eggs at random places on the level, and it just magically appears. So,
right.
I mean, there was definitely more of an emphasis on exploration in this game, which is one of the reasons, like I had mentioned earlier, about there not being really a time limit. The only time limit is when, you get hit and lose Baby Mario, which you can, superficially enlarge by collecting stars. You pick up the little baby star things, and that extends it by a second every time. So, I think you can go up to 45 seconds. Like, they give you quite amount, a large berth of time in which you can get Mario back, especially if you're going and grabbing everything. I loved that not only did the red coins make an appearance in this game, but now you also have the daisies, as well as the stars to, like I said, increase that time to be able to catch Mario. And the daisies are really cool because they, it seems almost like ridiculous that you're picking up these flowers while you're going through the level. Like there's no, initial, like, what do you call it? Purpose to them. It's just something to collect, you know what I mean? And then it's only once you get to the end of the level, when you go through the little circle at the end, that the daisies show up, and it becomes like a roulette wheel. And if you land on one of those daisies, you have an opportunity to either A, win some lives, or B, end up scoring a power-up, which will help you in the next level. And I thought that was a really cool way of kind of progressing from the goalpost that was in Super Mario World to now this is the evolution for Super Mario World 2, which is cool. What was the other big thing I was going to mention? I mean, being able to bounce eggs off of the sides of things, that in itself, there are different points and different levels where that's a mechanic. Like, you have to do that because there's no other way to be able to get to the enemy, or pick up coins or, whatever it is, in the level. So, I'm just going to skip to the end. So, Baby Bowser, let me tell you, like, that final fight was quite hilarious. I unfortunately did not get to experience it myself. I had to watch a video. But I loved, like, you fight Baby Bowser in, like, that typical, like, Bowser fight. You're on the ground with him, you hop on his head, you shoot eggs at him, whatever. You get him and you knock him out. But then it switches to a 3D perspective, and you have to start shooting eggs out towards a large Bowser that Kamek has basically enlarged Bowser to come and attack you. And that's, oh my god, like, if there's one thing I have to say about this game, and I mean, we're going to touch on it soon anyways, so I'm just going to get it out of the way now. Like, this game is gorgeous in every way possible. And this final boss fight where, like, you have Bowser in the background and you're shooting eggs at him while avoiding other obstacles is the pinnacle of graphics on the Super NES, in my opinion. Like, this is something that you would see on a 32-bit system, not a 16-bit system. And they pulled it off great. Like, from what I saw from the videos that I saw, because like I said, I didn't get this far, unfortunately. I did not see any slowdown. I didn't see any lag. It handles it like a champ.
All part of the benefit, like it being like a late Super NES game, like that play Super FX2
Yeah, absolutely. So. And I do love the fact that after you finish the level, they show you a chalkboard checklist of everything. Yeah. So it keeps you wanting to go further or go back and collect what you've missed.
Yeah. I also love the idea, like the Yoshi handing out you're handing Big Mario, like next Yoshi in line. It's like, okay, it's like, here you go, here's the package. Right. But relay system, give him across the kingdom. So, those are all the great points. I mean, this game oozes cuteness. That's what I just said. Even though it is, obviously designed for kids, because back then Mario was still like a very much kid franchise. Right. I mean, like, adults could still play this game and have a lot of fun with it too, like those reasons. But the graphics, I love the idea of the graphics, because a lot of games have hand-drawn graphics, where graphics in this time period look great. But they gave this, they chose to give this game a very like coloring book look to it, as far as the graphic went, and it looks great. It's like that's what I said before. There are a game system with overall better graphics, but as far as the whole 2D hand-drawn look, this game is top of the list as far as that goes.
Yeah, I mean, look, Star Fox was amazing for its time, and it blew our minds, but it looks like crap today. This, on the other hand, not only looks great, but it still looks great here in 2023.
Well, 2D is timeless,
right?
I mean, that's why a lot of people, that's why a lot of indie games that could come out these days, and even some major releases, are like 2D or 2.5D as far as the graphics go, because it is timeless. But because 3D, while it looks good, can age very badly. I mean, just like most early PlayStation and Saturn games,
right?
For games that did not age very well as far as that goes. So nowadays that's not really so much of a concern, because we have hit the point of very diminishing returns, where the graphics are really going to be improved, a little bit each time. But 2D graphics, you don't have to worry about that. It's always going to be timeless. So. The music in this game is also great. It's a great soundtrack. You know, it's a shame I played it for so long with the music turned off because it really is an amazing soundtrack.
Yeah.
I have more nostalgia for the soundtrack you have the soundtrack for the soundtracks for Super Mario Bros. 3 and Super Mario World, but this soundtrack is definitely way up there as far as that goes. It's a great soundtrack like this game for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the two biggest praises I had about this game is that the graphics and the music were just top-notch, gorgeous, fantastic.
Yeah. The controls are tight also because, this is a typical Nintendo platformer. It's like you expect and demand and you always get very tight, precise controls. Yep. And this game's no exception. It's like, there are some things that are very hard to figure out at first. Trying to handle all Yoshi's abilities that I already mentioned before. But once you get the hang of it, goes like pretty smoothly. The only thing I still had issues with was trying to get eggs, or trying to bounce and aim certain eggs at certain points. Yeah. Can always be challenging, which is supposed to be challenging. The game wants it to be hard, but the mark of a good platformer is when you die, you feel it's your fault, not the game's fault.
Correct.
And this game lives up to that fully, as far as that goes. So, what do you think about the overall difficulty of this game, Joe? Did you find it to be a bit easier than easier to Mario World like I did like overall, or? So what were your thoughts on that?
I definitely feel like it is easier than Mario World, but also, like, I think that's the design of it. Like, you can do a bit more with Yoshi. Like I said, you got that flutter jump that lets you float, and, like, you can, like, spam that ability. So you can hover for quite a bit of time to be able to find and get to wherever you need to go. And obviously throwing eggs, it's easy to clear out enemies, from a distance. So there's less of a chance of you getting hit by stuff. So there's definitely things in there that can make it easier than the first Super Mario World. But also, like, if you wanted to go crazy and you're just looking to try to beat the game and you want to, like, just treat it like a Mario and not use any of Yoshi's abilities and try to do it like Mario and just run and jump and stomp on enemies, there is going to be a challenge there because there are certain things that are, designed for the new mechanics of working with, the eggs and everything else. But, overall, I did feel this was a little easier than Super Mario World. But like I said, there's still a challenge there if you want to go for it.
Oh yeah, sure. I think I think it's a very important distinction to make, which I want to make sure that which I think we've made, but I just but I would say it's to be sure. Yeah. If you just want to play the game normally, it's not that bad. If you play 100% the game, especially without any help, good freaking luck because you're gonna need it. This game, Mario World was not easy to fight. Mario World was not easy to 100%. Right. This game's like 3 times as hard. Yeah. So because that whole shooting things at the right spot just to unlock something is. I've never been a big fan of that myself personally. Yeah. But the whole game's not it, so it's fine for what it is. But I'm just saying, this is a very difficult game to 100% for sure.
And I was surprised by how random that whole shoot an egg into the void and hope that there's a secret there was, because playing the newer games like Yoshi's Crafted World, which I'm going to use because that was really the first Yoshi game that I played outside of any Mario games. Like, by then, they had 2 other Yoshi games in between, and they had gotten to the point where they were showing, like, kind of like a ghostly apparition outline of, like, where something is. So you knew where to shoot your egg, and you knew what you had to do. So I think the newer games are definitely a lot easier than this adventure here, in that aspect.
Oh, sure, definitely. Definitely agree with that, like, for sure. So this game obviously was very, very popular, like all those things we mentioned. It is a Mario platform game. It does have Yoshi, et cetera, et cetera. But side note, this was actually the last Mario platformer game to come out could come out like for over like 10 years, but because we wouldn't see another Mario platformer game until flying to the groundbreaking Super Mario 64. Like 64 in 1996. So it's a good thing this game was so good because it took a long time before we got another one. But the game sold very well during its lifespan, over 4 million copies. Reviews of the game were overall positive. A few small complaints, nitpicks of the game, which we've already talked about before. Such as a crying baby, but yeah. So this game definitely is a pretty easy one to recommend. Especially if you enjoy platformers like it all. I mean, it's like if you're a fan of Mario at all, or Super Mario World, this game definitely is a no-brainer to pick up and play. And like I said, and we already talked about before ways you can mitigate or deal with the crying baby Mario issue of like if it's problem for you. But I think this is also still pretty like beginner friendly platformer to play. I think both because of the very cute graphics and also because of the fact that the overall gameplay is not that hard. Like I said before, the fact you have time to get Mario back in your back before you die is a very forgiving gameplay mechanic. So. I think overall, for those reasons, this game is definitely worth the praise it's gotten over the years. It still holds up very well today. It was a very fun, competent platformer. I have more nostalgia for, and I enjoy overall Mario 3 and Super Mario World better than this game. Having said that, however, this is still an amazing Mario franchise game.
Yeah. So. And I'm just going to leave it like this. This is exactly the first note I put on my page when I was writing up everything for this. In my opinion, which doesn't go for much, but, I'm here on the podcast, so I get to express it.
Not as much as mine, but...
This is not only a perfect game, in my opinion, but I think it is definitely the most perfect game on the Super Nintendo. This is the Super Nintendo operating on all cylinders, 100%, giving you straight entertainment, straight great gameplay, good innovation, good use of the Mode 7. Like, everything is showcased right here. If there was one game that someone said, I want to see one Super Nintendo game, and I want to see what the Super Nintendo was all about with that, one game, I would pop this in and I'd say, here you go. This shows everything the system can do.
I totally understand why you would say that. I'm not sure I 100% agree because I think there are a few of the games that have the system that could get this one like a run for its money. But having said that, it is definitely a great game, an amazing game, and I totally understand why I would say that because it definitely does push things very hard in the system, like for sure. So, before we move on to any, before we move on to finishing topics, is there anything else that you want to say about the game to kind of wrap things up, Joe? Anything else that we left out?
No, I think we pretty much hit everything on here. Yeah, that's basically it.
Well, this being a Mario game, of course, and this game being as big as it is, there are of course a whole bunch of cheats and secrets of this game, which I could spend probably a good hour just going over myself. Period. But I will attempt to talk about briefly here the most interesting ones. There's a code in the game that you can use to go directly to mini games. Like we just want to play them, which is nice. Nice. There are some glitches in the game. You can carry big eggs at the levels with you. You can use coins to warp to the next level. They're duplicate red coins to be found in the game. You can actually eat Baby Mario, which is frightening, but. You can disable auto scrolling in levels that have them. You can also get a life. There's also life underflow glitch where if you do it correctly, you warp the counter around and give Yoshi 999 lives. There's a null egg. there's no egg glitch in which eggs don't show up. So, but it can cause the game to hang if you do it improperly.
Right.
So be careful about that. And there are ways to warp into certain worlds to skip stages. Kind of like the old warp pipes that the earlier Mario games had. So, let's see. I'm just looking through here real quick. A whole bunch of other secrets in this game. Whatnot. I think those are all the codes and glitches that the game actually has. Which being as big in programs as this one is, I'm not surprised that there are a few cheats.
Yeah.
For sure in this one. So, but anyway, so on eBay, this game is very common, obviously, because obviously it's going to be common because the game's sort of formatting copies. This game is somewhat more expensive than you might expect to see a Super NES common game like this, but it is a Mario game. It is and it is a first-party game. And for those two reasons to combine, the game just tend to hold its value pretty well. So 154 copies of the game are currently listed on eBay at time doing research. 425 copies of the game recently sold. So like I said before, a lot. This is a very common game. These prices include shipping. Carts of the game sold anywhere from $25 to $25 to $70.
Yeah.
That's why I said $25 for this game kind of seems a bit high, but when you think about it, great game, Mario game, Nintendo game, etc. It's all influence the price.
Yeah, and I mean, as far as a physical game for the SNES, that's not horrible. I would definitely spend the $20 for it. But also, I was looking, and if you have the GBA, you're better off getting the Mario Advance 3 Yoshi's Island, because that one's $5.
Right. Yeah, for sure. CIV copies of this game ranged wildly in price depending upon how good that they were. A complete but very beat up copy of the box manual and the game sold the low end for $61. However, pristine, mint complete, all inserts included, everything, the whole 9 yards copy of the game sold for a whopping $806 recently. So, major changes, the price of this game. But if you're somewhat short on funds, this game is available on the Switch as long as you have that, as long as you have the basic membership. Play the game that way too as well. There's even fan made quote unquote sequels and hacks of this game out there that you can also find, which add on whole new stages and gameplay mechanics, which is more testament as to how much love this game still is today. It's a shame we never got to. It's a real shame we never. It's a real shame we never got another game like this, because I think that while there have been in recent years several very good, I think, 2D Mario platformer games, there's just something unique about this game with the love and time, attention that was poured into this game. Like I said before, 4 years development time, hand-drawn graphics, blah 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 blah. That really make it unique. It's one of a handful of games that came out at the right time, at the right place, and you can and while you can spiritually copy it and make for a fun game, you're never going to be able to pass this game because of that unique combination of factors that made the game what it is at the time it came out, and those are factors that come into play. So this is really one of those really legendary games out there as far as video games go. Period. As far as perfect storm of combination of factors of hardware and programming and timing and characters and whatnot that all made it a very unique experience. A lot of reviewers of the game, contemporary reviewers, have commented on the fact that Yoshi's Island is a game that's been much imitated. much imitated but never proved. So and so I'm forced to agree with that. I'd really like to have the last word, Joe.
I mean, there's they had Yoshi's Story for the N64, which I didn't play, so I don't know how that differed from this.
It's a good game, but it's a very different game, but it's a good game still, like its own right.
And I know that opened the door for eventually Woolly World, which I talked about earlier for the Wii U, and then Crafted World, which came out for the Switch. And Woolly World and Crafted World very much, and I'm sure I'll get some hate, but it's true. Like, they feel very much the same, except for one's made of yarn and one's made of like paper. And I know that there are other differences and whatnot to those games, but those, like, visually is what you see. That's what's different. Other than that, like, the graphical capability of the systems now, like, it's okay. Well, let's do, like, this game was all done with like hand-drawn sprites and made it look like a coloring book. So they kind of kept that arts and crafts style going forward. And like I said, I don't know how it was on Yoshi's Island for the N64, but like absolutely for Woolly World, Yoshi looked realistic as far as like being made out of yarn. A lot of the different set pieces in the levels, you could tell it looked like handcrafted knitted yarn. It was quite amazing. And even Crafted World with the paper aspect, again, like origami and stuff like that that's being done on the screen. It's, it pushes the graphical aspect and the art aspect of the games. But as far as core gameplay, it's all been the same since like basically this game here. Everything you see here is in those later games, just slightly more elevated.
Yeah. No, I agree with most of that. You always have to mention. Of course, the gold standard. The gold standard as far as like paper games go. The Paper Mario franchise.
Right.
So, which is a very cool mechanic. It's a mechanic. It does look great. Some of the same folks worked to I worked in both games. I'm sure they got the idea from like Yoshi's Island probably. So, but yeah. So, yep, those are all the great points for sure. So, yeah, this game definitely is a classic. Like I said, like I said before, if you are annoyed by if you are as annoyed as I am by that Crying Baby Mario mechanic, I definitely encourage you to find ways to mitigate and to remove that, because there definitely are ways. That one thing should not be holding you back from otherwise, what is a very great, well programmed and well put together game for sure. So, but thank you to everybody out there for listening to this episode. We certainly very much appreciate it. Like I said before, we do have a few heavy hitters still left in the system to cover. There definitely is. There definitely is Secret of Mana, and there definitely is a few other games that sold very well and or are much loved today. So we will sprinkle those out as the months go on. But like I said before, we appreciate your patience. If you were waiting for this episode for a long time, it's like I said before, we just didn't want to cover all the heavy hitters like right away. So, and this probably was the biggest game left to cover in the system as far as like popularity and or sales. But there are some other games coming up still. If you're waiting for one of those games, we always appreciate your patience as far as that goes. Next time on the podcast, we'll be covering a game that's not quite as well known, obviously, but it's a very interesting game in its own right, for sure. This was a fan suggestion for us, and we want something breezy to cover after like more of the meat grinder slog that Yoshi's Island can be at points, for sure. We're going to be looking at Capcom's port of their arcade game Magic Sword on the system. This is a game I remember playing back in the day. I don't remember too much about it right now, so I'm curious to see how it holds up and how it is vis-a-vis its original arcade version. So, and I remember correctly, Joe, you have no experience at all with this game, like whatsoever.
Yeah, I don't even remember the arcade game, so this will be fun to check out for sure.
It's a pretty typical. Yeah, it's pretty typical of the time for action fantasy based hack and slash game. So you play games similar you played games similar to this before, I'm sure.
Yeah,
so,
I'm sure.
But anyway, if you have any questions, comments, feedback, you can leave them on Facebook group, or you can also send me an email if you want to at the SNES Podcast at yahoo.com. We also are a proud member of geekade.com, where you can find this podcast and many other great podcasts, both like retro gaming and non-retro gaming related. Joe, where can they reach you at?
You can find me on Twitter at JOESUX30, and I have a very public Facebook, and I do a podcast called the Radical Retro Roundup. Believe it or not, you can Google that and it'll pop up. So it's good to see the podcast is doing that good.
Yes. Yep, for sure. So, so glad to see it back myself. So, alrighty, folks. Appreciate you giving us a few minutes of your day as always. Thank you again for listening. For listening to the podcast. Hope to see you again soon. Stay safe, be well, and later all.
Bye.
Nintendo controls 80% of the video market. But no matter how you play the game, or which game you play, things definitely have come a long way since Pac-Man.
Now you're playing with power. Super power.